She told me everything 3 months later, over coffee, her hands shaking. Marta had watched my uncle drain $340,000 from my family's company and said nothing because she was terrified. Then the employees banded together and everything changed. My grandfather built Reyes Ironworks with his bare hands. 40 years of early mornings and calloused palms. He left it to his 2 sons, my father and my uncle, Ernesto. My father died young, so Ernesto took the wheel. I was 23 when I walked away. Not because I wanted to. Ernesto made it clear there was no room for me. "You're too green," he said, smiling with his eyes closed. I believed him then. So I packed a bag, moved 3 states away, and started over at a rival firm. For 7 years I built something quietly. Certifications, clients, a reputation. Meanwhile, back home, the company was bleeding, and nobody could understand why. Marta had worked the accounts at Reyes Ironworks for 19 years. She was loyal, careful, and invisible. Exactly the kind of person Ernesto counted on overlooking him. One Tuesday, a vendor invoice crossed her desk twice. Same job, different account numbers. She flagged it internally. Ernesto dismissed it as a clerical error and smiled. But Marta had seen that smile before. She started pulling threads quietly. Over weeks, a picture emerged. Vendor kickbacks, ghost payroll entries, personal expenses buried inside project costs. You wouldn't believe what she found. Shell invoices, a storage unit billed as equipment maintenance, his daughter's car payments logged as company vehicles, $340,000 over 6 years, moved in pieces small enough to avoid scrutiny. Marta didn't go to Ernesto, she went to the floor. She sat with the machinists and the drivers and the office staff, the people who'd given decades to my grandfather's name. Together, they documented everything, every receipt, every discrepancy, every forged approval stamp. Then they called an emergency board meeting, and they called me. I drove back in 12 hours. I hadn't spoken to Ernesto in 4 years. Walking into that boardroom, I felt nothing dramatic, just tired and clear. The employees laid it out piece by piece. Marta's hands were steady now, steadier than I'd ever seen. Ernesto sat at the head of the table where my grandfather used to sit and watched his own people dismantle his cover story in 45 minutes. He tried to redirect, he tried charm, he even tried tears, but the documents didn't care about any of that. The board voted to remove him that same afternoon. His keys were collected before dinner, a forensic accountant was brought in the following week, and the final number climbed past $400,000. Legal proceedings followed shortly after. Ernesto quietly settled to avoid criminal trial, but the settlement consumed nearly everything he had. Here's what I didn't expect. The employees asked me to stay, not out of sympathy. They had reviewed my work at the rival firm. They'd done their homework. Marta handed me a folder across the table, my own projects, printed out, annotated. "We know what you can do," she said simply. "We've always known." I stepped into the role Ernesto had told me I was too green for, 7 years too late, and exactly on time. The first morning I sat at that desk, I looked at the framed photo of my grandfather on the wall. His calloused hands folded, his quiet eyes. He built that company for family, and family nearly destroyed it. But the people he'd paid fairly, treated with dignity, and trusted over decades, they saved it. Every single one of them. Loyalty isn't loudest in the ones who share your blood. Sometimes it lives quietly in the people who simply show up every day and do what's right, even when it costs them something. If this story hit close to home, you're not alone. Drop a comment below and tell me yours. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to Karma Served Cold, new stories every week. Stories.